Welcome to the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley. It's the offseason. It is talking season. We talk about over-under. We talk about win totals, 9.5. Nico hits the portal. That shifts to just 8.5. A lot of talking heads out there talking about Tennessee football, where they are at. You can see this, A2ZSports.com. Zach Reagan with the article. Tennessee fans won't be happy with it. College football analyst Cole Kubelik doesn't have an optimistic win total for the Vols in 2025. You can scroll down here and see why Cole Kubelik feels this way. He says, absolutely, I do, said Kubelik when asked if he's taking the under on Tennessee at 8.5 wins. Syracuse to open the season, not going to be easy. ETSU, then you get Georgia, then you get UAB, then you're at Mississippi State, a team that if their quarterback Blake Shapen is healthy, is going to be a lot different than last year. He goes on to say, I think a lot of people just throw that one out. And if Blake Shapen's healthy, that's a team that could be very different. He goes on. He says, you got Arkansas at home, then you're at Alabama, then you're at Kentucky, which you may have, he says. He says, if Blake Shapen is healthy, he says, you may have a Mark Stoops team fighting for its life. You may have there's that word again, you may have a Sam Pittman team that is fighting for their life in Arkansas. Then you get Oklahoma at home. He goes on and says, we think Oklahoma is going to be the most improved team in the league. Then you get New Mexico State. After a bye week, then you're at Florida. Then you get Vanderbilt to close out the season at home. I don't see 9 wins there. I think 8 wins would be a solid season. Tennessee fans won't be happy with it, but I don't think they have the depth to overcome a lot of those losses with that roster this year. Now, he talks about losses with the roster immediately. Your mind kind of goes to the transfer portal, but I think he's also talking about starters, right? We got to replace 4 of the 5 starters on the offensive line. We've got questions in the wide receiver room, but let me tell you something. I think that offensive line can be improved. I think the wide receiver room, if it stays healthy, and again, I'm using the same buzzwords that Cole Kubelik is using, if they stay healthy, I think that wide receiver room can be improved. But 8.5, where are you guys at? If Tennessee goes 8-4, and I've posed this question before and kind of get interesting comments, interesting takes on it. If Tennessee goes 8-4 in 2025, do you give Josh Heupel a pass? And look, I understand depth at wide receiver, that falls on Josh Heupel. Ultimately, everything falls on Josh Heupel. He's the head coach. He's the boss man. He's the CEO. He makes the decisions. But would you be satisfied with 8-4 knowing that Nico Iamaleava hit the transfer portal the day before the spring game? QB1 in a day and age, college football in 2025, where it is hard to have a quarterback room full of guys ready to step up. We're lucky to have Jake Merklinger. We're lucky that Joey Aguilar just so happened to pop in the portal and we got the trade with UCLA. That's why Taven Jackson transferred. Quarterbacks don't want to be that middleman, right? You want to have your starter, and then you want to have the young up-and-coming guy like George McIntyre. It's hard to have a guy like Jake Merklinger in that room that's ready to go compete. So do you give Josh Heupel a pass if he goes 8-4? Knowing what we know, with Nico hitting the portal at the final hour, kind of backed us into a corner for QB1. Do you give Josh Heupel a pass if he goes 8-4? What's the worst that could happen? One commenter, one talking head said, an FSU-like implosion. Missing a bowl game is on the table for Tennessee. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about that. Before we do that, I need you guys to do that YouTube stuff for me. Just smash the thumbs up right down there below the video. It's quick, free, easy. It helps the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. There's a lot of you that roll into this channel every single day, and you're not subscribed. I can see the numbers. You are not subscribed. Fix that. Subscribe, click that bell for notifications. You won't miss out when we go live or when we drop a video. If it's your first time here, welcome to the Talkin VAWLS Network. We're not experts here. We're not insiders. We're not media. We are exactly what you guys are, for the fans, by the fans. We are fans here on the Talkin VAWLS Network. You want to show a little love, hit that thanks button down below. You can become a member of the channel for just $1 a month. You keep the lights on. You allow us to talk Tennessee football all day, every day, right here on the Talkin VAWLS Network. But let's go and take a listen. And this is Josh Pate, and I love Josh Pate. And he says a lot of things in this that I 100% agree with. I think they're 100% spot on. There's a couple of things that I disagree with. Let's take a listen to Josh Pate.
And so my buddy hits me and he says, man, what if the worst were to happen this year? What if they go 8-4? And I said, excuse me, the worst being 8-4? They may have gone 8-4 with Nico. The worst. you don't know much about Tennessee football if you think the worst is 8-4. This is a very, very new concept in the modern age. Tennessee having the audacity to fancy itself a perennial playoff contender.
Let me stop him right there for just a second. He says, if you think 8-4 is the worst, you don't know anything about Tennessee football. I hate when people talk about the past of Tennessee football when we're talking about the now. And there's nothing wrong with looking back and understanding where we came from and where we're going. There's nothing wrong with talking about the Derek Dooleys and the Butch Jones and the Lane Kiffin leaving in the middle of the night and the Jeremy Pruitt's inability to have a brain. There's nothing wrong with that. But what those knuckleheads did, what those boneheads did, what Jeremy Pruitt did, what Butch Jones did, what Derek Dooley did, none of that matters. All that matters now when we're talking Tennessee football and not knowing where we've been, it doesn't matter what Derek Dooley did. It doesn't matter what Butch Jones did. All that matters is what Josh Heupel has done. Josh Heupel's the head ball coach. So when we're talking about implosions, when we're talking about missing bowl games, all that matters is what Josh Heupel did.
Like, you can criticize Josh Heupel or credit Josh Heupel. You need to understand he pulled you out of the wilderness. That's what you need to understand. Tennessee football was an afterthought for a decade and a half because they couldn't get out of their own way. And Josh Heupel came in there. They were in the playoff last year. You can remember them getting their skull crushed in by the eventual national champ. But you know what? They were there. Where was Alabama last year? Tennessee was there. So that's a new concept. So
where was Alabama? Tennessee was there. And again, Josh Heupel, spot on, pulled us out of the wilderness. And that's why I can look back at the Lane Kiffins and the Derek Dooleys and the Butch Jones to appreciate what Josh Heupel has done since arriving in Knoxville, averaging 10 wins per year the last 3 seasons, college football playoff, a Heisman Trophy campaign season for Hendon Hooker. If he doesn't go down hurt, he deserves to be in New York. I would almost argue that he deserved to be there anyway. Had us ranked number 1 in the country. He's done things that no coach since Philip Fulmer has been able to do. He's got more seasons of 9+ wins than Jeremy Pruitt, Butch Jones, Derek Dooley, and Lane Kiffin combined. So, yes, Josh Heupel did bring us out of the wilderness, and that's why I have confidence going into 2025 is because of Josh Heupel.
To sit there, and I had this conversation with my buddy, so I'm just reiterating what I said. 8-4 is not the worst case scenario. I think their win total is 8.5 right now. So no, the worst case is like a Florida State implosion. Okay, probably not that bad. But the worst case is you miss a bowl game. That's the worst case. Because with Nico or without Nico, you still had over 160 starts to replace on your offensive line. With or without Nico, you had questions at wide receiver, questions at running back. You're retooling your defense. The ice is so much thinner in this sport than you ever think it is. You don't get to carry over success. Like, because you made the playoff last year, it doesn't raise the floor to where, all right, now on the low end, we're an 8-win team. No, on the low end, you're still a 4-win team. You're not immune to disaster just because you made the playoff last year. So I believe in Josh Heupel, but I believe Josh Heupel had a tall order on his hands, even if Nico stayed this year.
You don't get to carry over success. I do agree with that, but when you build winning seasons, when you're averaging 10 wins a year, when your recruiting is continuing to trend in the right direction, when you're having success in the transfer portal, and I get it, when you're looking at it from a national perspective and you're covering so many teams, maybe you don't grasp exactly what Tennessee's roster looks like. He says 8-4 is not the worst case scenario, and I agree with that. I think Josh Pate is spot on there. I don't think 8-4 is the worst case scenario, but we're going to talk about an FSU implosion. We're going to talk about missing a bowl game. First of all, let's talk about the previous talking points, right? Josh Heupel pulled us out of the wilderness, averaging 10 wins per year the last 3 seasons. We can talk about 2021. Heupel went 7-5 in the regular season that first year, and Josh Pate mentions the questions about 2025, right? With or without Nico, we still have questions: offensive line, wide receiver room, running back room, or the names or the groups that he threw out there. I think we had some questions in year 1 of the Josh Heupel era. We had 25 scholarship players hit the portal. That's more than any other team in the country that year. 25 scholarship players after Jeremy Pruitt was fired. 2 quarterbacks, your 2 leading rushers, Eric Gray, Ty Chandler, gone. Your starting linebackers, Henry To'oTo'o, Quarius Crouch, gone. Tennessee was only favored to win 5 games in 2025, but Josh Heupel went 7-5, and made it to a bowl game. So FSU implosion, No. Missing a bowl game? Man, I just don't see it. I don't see Tennessee missing a bowl game. I think this team has way more talent on defense. I think the offensive line room is going to be improved with the additions of Wendell Moy Jr. and Sam Pendleton. And yes, we do have some questions. I just don't see this team imploding. So when we talk about worst case scenario, what is your worst case scenario? I see some of your predictions. Some of you guys, your regular predictions are worst case scenarios. Josh Pate mentions 4 wins. 4 wins is the worst case. Okay, let's talk worst case scenario. Let's say you lose to the big 3, Georgia at home, Alabama and Florida on the road. There's so much talk about Syracuse, and there's a theme here. There is a theme here, and we knew Tennessee wasn't going to get any respect the second Nico hit the portal. All the doubt is now casted on Tennessee. So much talk about Syracuse. It's just a team, man. They don't talk about it. They just say, watch out for Syracuse, watch out for Syracuse, watch out for Syracuse. It's the same nonsense we heard last year about NC State. Watch out for NC State. Why? Well, just watch out for them. Okay, they're on the schedule. We'll watch out for them. Tough first game, blah, blah, blah. Could Tennessee lose to Syracuse? Of course they could. Will they? I don't think so. Could they lose on the road to Mississippi State? I mean, Josh Heupel always manages to slip up and lose a road game that he shouldn't lose. So could they lose to Mississippi State? Sure. Could they lose to Kentucky on the road? Sure. Is Oklahoma going to come into Neyland Stadium? Are they going to be fired up? Are they going to be angry? Is that going to be a revenge tour? Could they show up in Neyland and upset Tennessee? Maybe. Vanderbilt, we're going to talk about Vanderbilt. You see, it's college football. That's why you go out and play the game. Could all those things happen? Everything that we just laid out, could they lose to Mississippi State? Yes. Could they lose to Kentucky? Yes. Could they lose to Vanderbilt? Yes. Are they going to lose to all of those teams? No. So that's why it's called worst case scenario instead of reality. I just don't see Josh Heupel going out and going 4-8 in 2025. What are your thoughts? What is your expectations? What is reality? And what is the worst case scenario? Jump in the comment section. Let's talk about it. As always, smash that thumbs up on the way out the door. I would greatly appreciate it. You can go check out the Talkin VAWLS merchandise at bonfire.com/store/Talkin VAWLS. That link is in the description below, as well as the link to join the channel. If you're on an iPhone, that join button doesn't work. We need your support in the offseason, so we appreciate you guys. But that is going to do it for this one. This is the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name's Boogie Bentley. Go Big Orange.